And
may I jump in? I'm Diane Gardall, Sister, a Grey Nun of the Sacred Heart, Philadelphia.
Good,
Thank
Sheila. Good,
so
good.
if you would all please mute yourselves. We are already 241 people on this call. So I'm sorry that not everybody will have the chance to introduce yourself individually, but I will take the opportunity to welcome each of you individually and as a group. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to those of you who are staying up very, very late to join us. I am Ann Schultz. I'm a school sister of Notre Dame and the Associate Director for Social Mission at the Leadership Conference of Women Religious. And it's my pleasure to welcome members of LCWR and the Conference of Major Superiors of Men and their justice promoters and friends from around the world. So thank you so much for making time to be with us on the webinar today. You are all most welcome. And of course, a very special welcome to our friend, Sister Sheila Kinsey, who will be our presenter. Sheila is a member of the Franciscan Sisters, Daughters of the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary, and has served as the Executive Co-Secretary for the Justice, Peace, and Integrity of Creation Commission of the Union of Superiors General and the International Union of Superiors General. So UISG and USG. And Sheila served in that capacity since 2015. Like many of us, Sheila's justice portfolio is huge. So Sheila is involved in issues related to poverty, human rights, refugees and migrants, anti-trafficking work, peace building, and of course, care for creation. She currently serves as the coordinator of the UISG campaign, Sowing Hope for the Planet. Now, as you've probably heard, the Vatican's Dicastery for Integral Human Development is planning a May 2021 rollout of a 7-year plan to help Catholic communities around the world become more sustainable in the spirit of integral human development as outlined in Laudato Si. And we understand that that 7-year effort includes mobilizing 7 sectors, including congregations of religious, to journey together toward 7 goals in the hope of building a critical mass to achieve radical social transformation that Pope Francis calls for in Laudato Si. So we've asked Sheila to tell us everything. We've invited her in her capacity as co-secretary of UISG-USG's JPIC Commission and as a member of the Dicastery's Laudato Si Action Platform Steering Committee to help us understand at least a little bit more about this amazing 7-year journey we're being invited to undertake. So before I turn this over to Sheila, let's just take a moment and place ourselves in the presence of God, a God of abundance, and ask a blessing upon our gathering and upon our common ministry for justice, peace, and the integrity of creation. So let us pray. God, our creator, you're present in the whole universe and in the smallest of your creatures. You embrace with your tenderness all that exists. Pour out upon us the power of your love, that we may be protectors of all of creation. God of those who are impoverished and in need, give us the courage to walk in solidarity with the abandoned and forgotten of this earth, who are so precious in your eyes. Holy wisdom, teach us to see you in all of your creation, to be filled with awe, and to recognize that we are profoundly united as we journey toward your infinite light. Encourage us, we pray, in our struggle for justice, love, and peace. Amen. Just a little bit of housekeeping. At this point, I'm quite certain that you've all been on more Zoom events than you care to count. And you are experts in the intricacies and vagaries of Zoom. So just a few quick things. Please mute yourself. Please remain muted throughout the entire presentation. I encourage you to ask questions by writing those questions in the chat. I'll try to sort those, and at the end, we will have time for Sheila to address at least
any questions.
some or most of those questions. If you're having technical difficulties, my guess is those technical difficulties are on your end because they don't appear to be on our end. So hopefully you can make your sound work and make your camera work if you choose to. If you choose not to use your camera, that's fine too. We are recording this and it will be available. So we will make that link available to members of CMSM and LCWR and their justice promoters as soon as that's available to us. So Sheila, we are so glad that you can join us from Rome. We look forward to learning a little bit more about this 7-year adventure that will be formally launched in May and how we might collaborate with you and your colleagues, among ourselves, as we continue to journey toward that just and sustainable future. So Sheila, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anne. This is wonderful. I mean, I am so energized by so many religious being so concerned and so interested in what we're going to talk about in terms of this rollout plan. So thank you very much for being here with us. And I'd like to share my screen with you so I can move forward with a PowerPoint to kind of help explain what it is that we're trying to do here. So let me just share my screen with you here. All right. And I wanted to start from the beginning. So can you see that, please? All right, so here we are ready for this Laudato Si rollout plan for sustainable communities in the spirit of Laudato Si. So that beautiful prayer, Anne, that you began our session with just helps us be open for this wonderful space to be with one another. And again, we're using the leadership from the dicastery promoting integral human development as we move forward. And I'll experience the Sowing Hope for the Planet because this has been our entry point, and it will continue to be the process out of which we will be experiencing, particularly with the religious contingent, the Laudato Si action plan. So it's time to raise the orbit and put Laudato Si into action. So that's what we're here for. We want to energize our own base, our own religious congregations, but as we move out with our world to see what change and what difference we can make. And we know that we need to be responding to the cry of the earth. Warnings from the scientific community are putting us in a place where we need to be responsive, particularly as Catholics and with the leadership of Pope Francis. We need to determine what it is that is ours to do. And you can see by this map, the green area is supposed to be the area of safety, and we're already exceeding it in some of the areas with the nitrogen cycle, the rate of biodiversity loss, and we're moving here with the climate change. So these are the areas that let us know that we are needing to put some brakes on some things and come up with ways that we can begin to rejuvenate our earth. So this is a way of putting us in the context out of which we are being called to act. So how many Earths does it take to support humanity? Well, if we go on as the way we are going at this point, it's going to take 2 Earths here. Let me just show you a little bit more. I can see this. And our ecological footprint is we're supposed to be going down the curve, we're going up. And 2030, as we know, is the time for the UN Sustainable Goal Development in terms of our report. So here we have to look at, we need to be changing course because what we're doing is not working for us. So you can see here as the escalation is going that we're continuing to move up the scale instead of moving down as we need to do. So the temperatures are, it's continuing to rise, which is a concern for us because we need to keep it like 1.5 degrees Celsius. So the path that we're on is a dangerous one. If we continue in this way, in the year 2100, we will have reached 3.5 degrees Celsius. So the time is now, and it's imminent for us to say, what is it that we can do to make a difference? So we have our Pope Francis, who says to us, I have a pastoral plan for change. And this is something certainly that we have integrated in our way of moving forward. Time is greater than space. So process is more important than an event. We need to find ways to work together, that unity prevails over conflict. And we need to find ways that we can speak to one another without politicizing the issues, to say what it is that we need to have done and find ways to work together. Reality is more important than ideas. So we have to be concrete. We just can't keep things up in the air and keep talking about the way we want things to be. We have to talk about a reality that needs to bring us forward. And the energy is in the dynamic. The whole is greater than the part. We are gathered here more than 300 religious, and we're talking about a very important plan that we need to work together to actualize. So the dynamic is here. It's better than summing all of the parts. The energy is what is important. We need to be feeling we're part of a team, that each of us can do our part. And if we do this, we feel that we can coordinate these efforts to reach the 3.5% for a tipping point. And that's what they had when the Berlin Wall came down. But for system change to really make a difference, it takes 21 to 25% of our population. So 1.2 billion Catholics, but a smaller number when we're looking at our religious. How are we? We're in the hundreds of thousands, but it's our area and all the connections that we have that can really make a difference. So this journey is an emerging plan. So I want to be able to share with you kind of the process I'm going to use with you this afternoon. And I'm trying to have no one be left behind and not lose the pathfinders. So hopefully we'll be able to find a way that we can be together to get a general idea of what's going on. And those that are very far advanced in some areas can see where we're going and what they can also learn by this experience. So we're going to start with a little bit about the Sowing Hope for the Planet, because that's how we all got started in Rome, by this initiative. And then the involvement then of how that rolled over into more involvement with the Laudato Si action plan. And then a particular way of how we see ourselves moving forward with that plan for religious congregations within that action plan. And grassroots involvement moving forward with the Laudato Si action plan. So these are the 4 areas that I hope to develop for you during this time. And when you have questions, whatever, put them in the chat box. Don't lose them. Anne's going to be monitoring them, because this is so important for you to have an understanding of what it is that we're talking about here. So when we want to define our office here in Rome, our secretariat for the commission, we say this: JPIC is the conscious prayer and sacred action to transform the world in the spirit of the gospel through lives of justice, peace, and care for the integrity of creation. So that's kind of summarizes our focus. This is what we bring forward in the work that we do, in the ministry that we do. And with that context, then, we were invited to become a part of and to promote something called Sowing Hope for the Planet. And that is the context that we bring. It is supported by the JPIC Commission of USG and UISG, carrying it forward, but in different ways for the two different groups of women religious. The religious women, and you would probably know this from your own dynamic, they were able to, in the plenary of May of 2019, as a body, over 850 women religious, by acclamation, accepted and said, as a network, we will move forward with this idea of sowing hope for the planet. Again, this was just a small initiative at that time, looking at what are the needs of the earth and the poor, and what contributions can we make. We also presented to the men's group shortly after with the same plan going forward. Here you see myself and Father Joshua. He is very involved. He is the leader, really, the coordinator of this Laudato Si action plan. And then two other presenters, Father Juan and also Father Felix, who were part of the team that presented this Laudato Si action plan. And when we presented it to the men religious, they clearly, as individuals, were supporting of this effort. But as they would operate as a group, they could not say as a group they could support this. So we're working one-on-one with the men's congregations as we want to invite them into the process. The dynamic is a little bit different, but we want to find a way that we can work together. And that's the emphasis, and the fact that it is from the commission that we are able to bring both groups together. This was the statement, the vision statement that the women religious accepted, and this really is how we work with the movement going forward. It's we commit ourselves to both personal and communal conversion, and we wish to move forward together in an orchestrated and coordinated response in listening to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor as we go forth as instruments of hope in the heart of the world. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you, and I'll be sharing more things as well about sowing hope for the planet, is that that is what got us into working with the dicastery and also calling us forth to be leaders in this effort. So when you can get a sense of what this sowing hope for the planet is and the dynamic that we're working with, you can begin to see how, as we move forward with the Laudato Si plan, we're using some of the same experiences. So this is why I want to share this with you, to try to bring you into this dynamic, because some of you are for the first time hearing, what is this rollout plan? And for others of you, just kind of reviewing for you in a way that's more holistic, because as I said, this has been emerging, and each time we add another place. So when we wanted to be involved with this, we have a website, and that's where I would suggest that you go when you want information, and it's in 6 different languages. But it's about our way of living Laudato Si and being messengers of hope, being sowers of hope. Whether the seed is able to grow or not, we are sowers, and also the seed is within ourselves. So it's a combination of personal growth as well as we extend ourselves to others. The way that we have organized ourselves with this goal page was at the meeting that I showed you with the gathering of the UISG. They put together their commitments to care for the earth and care for the poor. And these commitments are put on the website. It's a way of being prophetic. It's a way of saying, I'm going to do this and you can count on me for that. And we need to be able to find a voice, to orchestrate this voice so we can learn from one another. And that was a way of organizing the way for us to move forward. It's by different country, regional country organization, as well as language. So, and you can see as we do some grassroots involvement, some of the same organizational formats are being used. And this is a sample of what you would find, and I have the one from the United States here. This was a sample of the commitments, and here they wanted to make a particular focus on the migration situation. So that was their way of saying, we're going to reworking this and wanting to make a difference, and we want to report on that at the next assembly. What is also on the side is when we did some study in terms of research on what were some of the needs for the earth and for the poor, these are alongside, just put a context for what it is that our particular constellations are doing and seeing what kind of impact we can make. So again, this is a way of saying, how can we help each other? And the fact that this is visible, anyone can go to this page and see what they're doing and see, maybe I can help, maybe I can offer something. So it's a way of helping our religious find connections with one another, and also to have it be more systematic. So all of them are here. Here's a part that includes South Sudan and Sudan, Uganda, different other English-speaking areas in Africa. So again, go there, find information that's going to be very helpful to you. Then the opportunities for participation. So we really emphasize what are some of the events, and you click on these different icons and you can find more information around this. So it's really being shaped, being able to share with what we're doing and not feel in isolation that each person has to do it on their own. It's a way of determining what it is that we can do and let others know about it so we can begin to create and to recognize the critical mass that we have. This is fun, kind of a little library, but you can click on different areas here. And then when you say search, it will come up. So you have the 6 languages. You want to do something for Advent or advocacy, you click on all the ones that you want, and the resources will come up for you. And we have a newsletter that comes out every month, and then we also raise up the new ones that come. But please, this again is an invaluable source of information and a way of really, really working together, and it's for you to use. It's for you to use. So what I'm trying to help you see, this is how we're trying to move forward. This Laudato Si rollout plan is to find ways that we can share our information across more than just our religious congregations, but we are in the forefront of this. Some of the resources that we've used in terms of the different days that are being celebrated, and these are still available, and you have an idea of some of the viewing audiences. We kind of like to keep track as to find out what we're doing and how helpful are some of these resources. Contact page. So this is if you want to sign up. I hope if you haven't that you would want to do that. And you can submit any kinds of questions or comments, and also submit any kind of resources that you have. So Sowing Hope for the Planet, simply go there, Google that, and you'll get to our page. You'll get to the website. It's a very important way, you know, the modern way of using technology to really help us connect with one another. We have a number of webinars. You may recognize some of the people here, Sister Janet, the Daughters of the Blood of Christ, when they were dealing with their situation with that pipeline going through Pennsylvania. They spoke about that and their advocacy efforts, and we joined in prayer for them during that time. And what really is important is this idea from Laudato Si number 9, which says the importance of change is attention to the ethical and spiritual roots of environmental problems. And it's up to religious with our charism to find ways to be able to share that. And in doing that, it's a liberation from fear, greed, and compulsion. So you can see some strong women here and men standing up for what they feel is right, and really in a sense of freedom, speaking their piece, their truth. So again, the webinars are around the globe, trying to find a way that we can work together. This is from Holy Cross Sisters, the Ecological Conversion and Sustainable Development, working North and South connection. They put together their little presentation as soon as we just had a copy of the rollout plan in January, the different areas. They began to see the interconnection of education, of the economy. These provided some jobs for people and taking care of the environment, taking care of the poor, finding that their spirituality needed to be out, had to be expressed, and then the networking within the local community. So it's an easy way to show how we are able to move with one another. This was from the session that we did on the different constellations during the season of creation, and this is from the United States, talking about the immigration that the sisters are doing there with the men. But also we saw Mexico, and we also heard from different parts of South America and Africa. So the whole sense of the migration problem, we had a global perspective and the needs for us to really work together. So you can see then with the sharing of the Sowing Hope that we've already began by grassroots, by having superiors say, these are the things that we need to be working on. But prior to that meeting for several months, we put together a video showing what was happening around the world. So we already are being able to share some grassroots development to take us forward with this rollout plan. So you can see of this, when this was going on and the thinking began out of the dicastery, that there would be conversations taking place. As I said, this was a development process. So the action plan and the work for this dicastery, the presentation, Father Jostrom immediately was involved in presenting both by work with the UISG and with the men's groups to really have them understand what the dicastery was trying to do. And specifically, religious leaders have been asked to develop with this plan. And the steering committee is specific for the Laudato Si action plan, and for the religious, it's the three of us. Father Xavier, a Jesuit, Giharda, Brother Alberto Parise, a Camboni missionary, and myself. So the three of us are really working in many aspects of helping bring together the religious men and women around the world in ways that we can work together and honor the work that's being done. So these are the kinds of connections that are happening. This is true. We have our meetings for the steering committee are every 2 weeks, and there are conversations, going on as well. And all three of us are JPIC people. So the kind of energy that comes with that, and also the way of knowing how to go forward with it as well. So this is how moving then all of the energy and the experience of what's been happening with the Sowing Hope for the Planet continues to influence how we move forward with this rollout plan. So the special grace of the Laudato Si anniversary year. So as Anne was saying, it's going to be launched in May 24th of 2021. So these conversations that we were having before about, rollout plan and working with religious, when it was announced as an anniversary year, the momentum really increased. So that's why the energy is being gathered even here to talk about this plan. And the document that Anne referred to, gave you copies for, that's the basic document. That's the one that we're using for what we're proposing. And it's the work of the dicastery for years. So as Pope Francis says, it's a process. It's not an event. So the next years from the dicastery, this will be their plan, and we will be working with them as well. So it's to say, in kind of capturing then the vision of this platform is to integrate the ecology in the spirit of Laudato Si, specifically through this action platform, which is listed in that guide. To engage a concerted effort with our individual conversion and communitarian action, to really find ways that we can work together, to care for the common home and to acknowledge best practices. Technology is really on the forefront here as well. We want to proceed with the 7 initiatives realized in partnership and with the clear emphasis on ecological conversion, environmental and social. Everything is interconnected. And as the network grows and expands, it is hoped that a critical mass will be created for the radical social transformation needed to address the ecological crisis. And we believe we can do this because the energy is certainly being felt and people want to do something. Our religious are coming to the fore. Information is not enough. I showed you all of those statistics before, and yet we're saying we're overshooting the mark. Values are important, and we bring that as religious, our spiritual values, but we also need the will, and we need to be able to go forward with that. And we feel that we have an opportunity because it's focused. We have 7 years to do this. We got radical changes are happening already in the environment as we speak. So it's an opportunity for us to make a difference. And that's where this plan is then also being worked through, as I will go through the Laudato Si action plan, because actually the religious group has the most developed plan, and this is the one that we talk about. But we really are building on interdependence, obliges us to think of one world and a common plan. And you can see the name Brother Alberto Parisi. He had been a teacher for 18 years in transformational action. So he's helping move us really forward in an exciting venture. And up here you see the logo of our JPIC Commission, Initiative UISG, but USG is a part of it. And from the beginning, the Global Catholic Climate has been involved in this effort. I'm on the steering committee also of the Global Catholic Climate Movement. So I say this for you to know that we're not working in silos. We're really trying to work together. So as you can see, this is the pamphlet that you have received and you probably looked at. And it's what's so unusual is the fact that, Laudato Si, at 5 years, we're already starting a big initiative. It usually takes years for something like this to happen. And this is not the case. We're on the floor and we're running. We're making the most out of this anniversary year. So it's like it's a kairos. It's a graced moment. And we want to be conscious of that. Our conscious prayer, sacred action, transforming. As Karl Rahner said, and some of us could remember that, we're either going to be mystics or nothing at all. And I think this is what we're called upon, is to really put our sacred lives in action. And we're reminded that our religious constitutions are a way of helping us do that. We have many initiatives. We're going to look at a few more that give us hope. So we know we're not starting from zero, but we need to organize this in a systematic way. So this is all being said in that Laudato Si anniversary plan. So it's in partnership, working together. That's very important. Knowing that the dicastery is leading the overall framework, we're involved in it, that the whole technical support, the really thinking through of the mechanics and how we are really able to interface with one another is the Global Catholic Climate's challenge. And that's across all of the sectors. So we're trying to get that in place. And the struggle is how to facilitate this participation with one another so the information is out, the grounding is out, the interconnection is out. So this is a challenge, but we know it, but we want to do it as well. So what about this action platform? May 24th, 2021, that is the launch date, but you can't just start there. We know we have time to get this done, calendar year, new participants each year. So if you're not ready to say, I commit, you got another year or another year or another year. And we're looking at being strategic in terms of inviting people to be a part of this, as many as want to. Great, and seeing that this as a network and the critical mass. So this in very simple way is the guidance that we want for the action platform. These are the 7 sectors that are referred to there, and each area needs some uniqueness in order to be developed, but also some general guidance to see how we are connected on the different areas. So we have, for example, Focolari are going to be taking the families. So we have already designated some of the leaders that will be overseeing certain sectors. The community comprises many aspects. The diocese, basic ecological communities, all of those are being considered as one area. The educational institutions, schools, universities, anything else labeled as education, that's into this category. Hospitals and healthcare centers, businesses and farms, and whatever variety that could be, various organizations, NGOs, foundations, communication centers, that's another group. And the religious orders is, as they see, it's foundational because we are included in one way or the other. We have some kind of connection with all of the areas. So although we're looking at the religious orders and what we bring by virtue of our lives, we're also conscious of the fact that we are going out and trying to influence the others as 11. You know, this is what we're being asked to consider as we move forward with this plan. And here are the goals. And we can really compare these goals within the Sustainable Development Goals. There's a certainly correlation. And Pope Francis is very clear on how he's trying to make this a worldwide event. He speaks at these events. He takes what we consider as suggestions or ways to move forward from many of the statements that are issued from the UN. And this language is included in our documents. And Laudato Si has brought spirituality in the environmental arena. And Fratelli Tutti is really pushing how we need to be together in fraternal, which is both for women and men to work together in a way that's networking with one another. And in the Evangelii Gaudium, he spoke in terms of, there's a plan, and that's where those 4 areas of pastoral plan are really developed. Simple lifestyle, ecological education, ecological spirituality, and community engagements. And I'm just going to show some of the picture JPIC to say to you, this is the arena where we are involved. So caring for creation, response to the cry of the earth, both in ways that bring it forth in health and as well as in areas that are needing assistance. The vulnerable, ecological economics, how we need to be concerned about all these areas. Samples here and related to the development goals, education, so that we realize how not only we have human trafficking, but what are the sources of that. Diversity, that we need to have our spirituality shown, and that we need to be working together on community engagements because we're concerned about what is this world we're leaving our young people. So we're building on what religious already do. We wanted to make it simple and gradual enough to be manageable. This is the plan. Inspiring enough to be motivational, and flexible enough to suit different contexts. So that's what this plan is about. The whole process then, characteristics, the see, judge, and act methodology, where we want to be included, real life, analyze the root causes, spiritual discernment, and then inspired action. And religious are on the forefront because that's our prophetic role. We are taking our charism, our religious congregations, and folding that into the specific plan. Think locally and globally, and religious are at that point where we make those connections and bridge these connections. The framework, kind of the structural framework, is as 3 components. Practical tools. This is the first, the public commitment. So the next one is transition to integral ecology. This is in our plan, and that we want to be able to journey together. So the commitment, looking at the 7 years, communicating this to the public. So this is what we mean about your commitment, that it not is just something that you keep in your congregation, but you let others know about this and accountable to that, and you want to celebrate your accomplishments. So this is part of making a public commitment. Transition, looking at the 7 goals and putting this into your community plan and evaluating that on a yearly basis. And certifying, saying, have we met this plan? And usually your leadership can help with that. That's transition. Then journeying together, global campaigns. The constellation is one area that we showed you in terms of UISG, and joining partnerships north and south. These are important. And linking up with what GCCM is developing for us. And this is a plan that they have been using for years, and you can see that the way that we have been developed, it has been in the same measure. The learning is the see and the judging, the acting, and that we want to be tracking what are some of the things that we're doing. We are some areas: social inclusion, carbon footprint reduction, reduce, reuse, repair, and recycle, mainstreaming integral ecology. So these are some of the things that we're looking for toolboxes. And I think already you may be asking, getting some focus groups to look at some of these areas. So in social inclusion, we're looking, how can we develop this? We need some help with assessing our different situations. Can we have a handbook with strategies and then guidance for planning and implementing? So these are not, do not have these in one place, but we're hoping to pull these together with what people have done. Using, for example, with inclusion, the process, the compact that Pope Francis talks about in terms of migration, welcome, protect, promote, and integrate. So these are some strategies that people may want to consider. Again, we are able then to connect with one another. Carbon footprint, some people are asking about some tools. What are they? What are available? Can we plan and implement this? And these are usually the categories: travel, home, food, goods, and services, and that in one way or another is talked about in terms of the carbon footprint. And then social inclusion. How do you mainstream persons? What do we need then to deal with the networking with one another? How do we deal with advocacy? So these are things that we are looking to put together, but are asking for input as well. I'm showing this broadly for you to know that there are things in place, but again, we need the help of one another. There are some congregations that have already begun to do some serious planning. These are the ones listed. I'll just kind of say something about what each is doing. This is available for those that want to look at it further to see what's taken place. The Claretian family is working with all of their institutes, men and women religious, and their associates doing planning by ministries, and they're selecting certain ones to do the surveys. The Holy Cross family, very big on the carbon footprint and seeing how that interrelates with all the other areas. And the Sisters of the Holy Cross are taking the lead in the ways that they've addressed the fossil fuels. The Columban missionaries have set together a covenant, and each of their members are seriously about where they are personally and where they see their congregation going and making their plans. And they've had a number of webinars to help with that. The Brothers of the St. John of God, really living Laudato Si and seeing it in all their ways of their charism and all their ministries. And so they've grouped themselves in the way of strategy planning. And the Ursulines of Jesus, out of Canada, for example, really taking guidelines and looking at the various dimensions and how they can actually put this into their congregation. So this is another plan moving forward. I just let you know is to give you an idea, and this PowerPoint will be available if you want to do more serious looking at any one of the areas. And this is the servants of Our Lady of Fatima. They're training their leaders, starting off with their leaders, and then having that relate to their constitutions, and then forming it out then into their daily lives. So Pope Francis says, time is running out to fix the economy, protect the earth, and help the poor. And as the term countdown suggests, we have to act urgently. Each one of us can play a valuable role if we all start out today, not tomorrow, not today, but today. Okay, so going forward then with this plan, with the congregations, the year of planning, 5 years to really work, a year to celebrate, continue to double what is happening in terms of the commitments. And these are some tools which we're using to kind of help ask people to invite and help provide the materials necessary. I just show you this as a sample so that you can see that we're trying to take what we've been suggesting and then asking, as there are different group settings around the globe actually, to see what people are doing that we can begin to put that together. That's really, really important. And this is kind of an evaluative tool that can be used in communities. It's just a sample to see where people are as they are beginning to move forward with this rollout plan. Again, we have 7 years with this. So this is any information. Continue to be involved with the webinars. The next one is January 21, Realizing the Vision of Laudato Si. Father Josh will be there. Reba Elliott from Global Catholic Climate will be there. And we will have representative from the Middle East. So we're, again, sharing with you what is on this journey. It's very, very important because we're envisioning a new future, a new future. We want to have an integral approach as everything is closely interrelated, and today's problems call for a vision capable of taking into account every aspect of the global crisis. And by virtue of being involved on this global rollout plan, I'm also involved in this COVID-19 commission on the one for Ecological task force. So again, it's another way of bringing this all together. And special thanks to Father Joshua for the science and for Brother Alberto for all of the materials for the platform, the slides that I showed. And I wanted to be able to give you enough time that you could ask questions. I can go back over anything that you want, but I wanted to give you the full picture of where we are, what we're doing, and how we need you to be with us going forward, because you're precious and we need each other. we really need each other. So, and there's some questions that I can answer, something they want me to go back over, whatever, but I know I needed to allow time for this, please.
Well, Sheila, thank you so much. I think you did a marvelous job of giving us a big picture overview
Yeah,
of what is a very challenging and horribly exciting
right.
adventure that we're about to undertake. Well, many
Right.
of us have already begun that adventure, as you pointed out.
Right.
So thank you for reminding us that, you know, we're on this journey. We have been on this journey for a long
Right.
time. This is going to enable us to join our efforts together,
Mhm.
the whole of the church community around the world, and ideally really push us over the edge so that we reach that tipping point
Yes.
and head off towards sustainability.
Right.
Thank you.
I think we can do it, really.
I know we can do it. I
Yes,
know
we can
and
do it.
I know you've got, what have we got now? We've got 329 folks on this call who are absolutely committed to be part of that.
Absolutely. Yes, this is recorded, and so you have that available. That's what you need, and the PowerPoint that I gave to you as well. So
I've got-
Ann, where your question? Any questions specifically?
So over the course of your input, we've gotten some questions, and I'm sure they'll keep coming. I'm going to do
Yes.
my best to stay on top of both. You've already answered the most popular question. Will the PowerPoint be available? You said yes. And has this been recorded, and will the recording be available? Yes, absolutely, on both of those things. So thank you. That will give us a chance to go back and look at it again. Let me ask you a very specific question. Sounded like you were asking or encouraging folks to share resources.
Yes.
The best way or the easiest way for folks who have resources they think would be helpful, how can we make those available to the whole?
When I was showing you the website, and again, this is one that we've been using, there will be some where we'll be think, how can we share in another place more areas that are not specific, that are like, for example, the carbon footprint, some of the areas that are for everyone. Okay, when I was showing you the PowerPoint, I came to a section called contact. And when you would go there, you would sign up your name or whatever, and you would submit. You can submit your resource, and that way we would be able to put that on. And if you have difficulty, you just email, just say that on the form, and we will get back to you.
Okay.
So right there on the contact place.
Okay, thank you.
On the website, yes.
Let me ask you about, I think you touched on the desire to really get at the root causes of this ecological crisis we find ourselves in, and the migration crisis we find ourselves in. Is that going to be, and the poverty, is that going to be a continuing emphasis? Are you all going to help us really begin to dig deeply into root causes, do you think?
Yes, and remember when we said information is one thing, values and will are the other things that have to be considered. And so when we can be clear about how we can help different groups move forward. Caritas International and SIDSI are also in this very strongly. So they would also be giving us information, and they are on this, they're on the Ecology working group. So it's about how we can find ways to work together and what are the needs, and in a way that helps people feel that they can also be responsible for their lives because they have what they need to do that. So those are some of the ways that we want to move forward, is that sense of wholeness that people can have, that they can be in charge of their lives, because the conditions, the environment, and the social structures are what they need to have in place. And we know the value of some of the videos that have gone viral and how they have organized and made changes in government. So we need, and some of them have been not good. So our role is to really be serious about what we need to be communicating to one another, and to be there for each other, and to use our prayer, that's conscious prayer. And the action needs to be sacred. It needs to know that we're working with God on this. We really are. Okay. Does that help with that? But we got to get the study. We got to get the right information. There's so much out there. We got to be clear about what's going to cause change.
I think that's helpful.
Yeah.
We had a number of questions around targets.
Yes.
Is this is the idea that individual congregations would set their own targets?
Yes. Yes.
The steering
Yes.
committee target, who's setting the targets, and how do we know what the targets are?
See, now this conversation that we're having, to be specific, is what we call this emerging piece. What is this target? And really, we want it to be flexible and doable. For example, fossil fuel divestment is one of the areas that is mentioned in the goals. Okay, so people don't, some countries are religious, don't even have money to invest, let alone to divest it. So what we have is a part of is to say, if you had money, you wouldn't invest in fossil fuels, but it's a way of honoring the areas that are really not causing this, some of the catastrophes that we're dealing with in terms of climate change. So the targets that we're asking is for each of the areas or congregations to consider what would be theirs. And that's part of that plan that let me go back here and see if I can show you something here. Because there was another question related to this. Something to go back to, they wanted me to go back to. This one here. Okay, do you see this? Oh, okay. This one here could be used in congregations where they can begin to say, have they developed, this one is about the statement. Have they started it, or are they on course, or have they completed it? So that's kind of a progress statement. So you can say, for example, if we're going to do a carbon footprint, what are you looking at? Your transportation? Are you looking at your food? Are you going to be eating more vegetables and less meat? Are you going to be looking at plastics, single-use plastic? Is that an area that you're going to be determining? So those are the different things that the group themselves in Uganda would talk about it differently than someone in the United States. So in order for that sense of wholeness to be there, that's important. But what also is important is the fact that it has to be integrated. And as we were talking about this, someone asked for this question here. Can you see these goals?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That they all need to be worked together. You can't say, oh, I'm going to just do the in earth, the one that cried the earth. Because when we used the example with the Holy Cross Sisters and they were doing their carbon footprint, the money they saved, they ended up giving to Ghana, giving it to one of their missions in the south to clean up their area and using it as a money-making process. They themselves had a simpler lifestyle about that. They helped educate the connection between the two congregations and the local area that need to be able to clean up, because they didn't think they could do it. And to see the spirituality goal, and we need additional sharing in terms of ecological spirituality, to see that it's not only praying within a liturgical setting, but it also needs to be exemplified in our presence out into other places. And then that we need to try to find a way to involve the communities. So, and that what's also very critical, and it's mentioned specifically in the Cry of the Poor, that this is defense of life from womb to death. So it's conception to death. So it's also for the poor, but it's also looking at what's the life of the environment. and how are we caring for that? So it's the challenge is to really to put them together and to see that in doing so, that has really strengthened it strengthened them, the action. Mhm. Okay, was there any other question on the PowerPoint that I could refer to?
I don't think so.
Okay, great.
I don't think so, but that doesn't mean there wasn't. That just means I haven't seen it. Let me ask you a question about the rollout itself. So it's set for May the 24th of
Yes.
2021. There's questions around, will it be a virtual event? Are people is there gonna be a big event in Rome that folks will be spending lots of fossil fuels to get to? Or, do you have any idea what the rollout's gonna
You know, a lot is, dependent on what's happening with COVID. But we also found the fact that one of the blessings of COVID is the webinars, that we're able to have people from around the globe be connected to one another. So that's the important aspect here. That's it. Now, what's also taking place between now and the 24th is, as areas are developed, as we're clearer about what are the targets, if we can use the word target, but again, it has to be for, what the religious congregations can do. And then we would see how that impacts the total. That will be shared as we go. And then what's going to happen on the 24th is communities then will be named, who will be saying that we are willing to commit ourselves to a 7-year journey to be sustainable. So, and they would begin that journey. Now, this has changed because of COVID. The initial part was that we were starting this back in May, and instead we got this special anniversary year. That's what the important part is. So that is necessary, and we don't know exactly how this will take place, but we're certainly open up to suggestions. That's for sure.
So let me see if I've got the timeline. So in May of 2021, May 24th, 2021, you'll be looking for some congregations who will be willing to make a public, or be ready to make a public commitment to take the journey.
Yes.
Are you looking for 50 or 500 or 5,000?
The 50 came from the 50th celebration of Earth Day. And so we were going to launch it then. We were going to be talking about that, and that's where the 50 came. So that's, it has been often in the literature. But as we've gotten more time, and as you see, I showed you 8 persons, and you can see there's quite a bit of development already. And I know we don't have all of them. And I'm sure there's several on this webinar that's saying, well, we want to be included in this too. So that they're making a commitment. And Father Josh is thinking then they can be doing even more planning the next year or whatever that they need to do, but having 5 solid years where they're really measuring out, this is what we can do. And then celebrating then on the 7th, the last year being a celebration. So the other piece is, this is something that's never been done before. And so therefore, we're trying to figure out how can we work together with this unwieldy group that we want to have an impact on, and listen to people with different ideas and see the energy that we need to move forward. Someone asked about the dicasteries. Yes, they are working together. So working like with the education, the family life, the religious, in fact, the February 2nd, on the Day of Consecrated Life, it's going to be on something on the environment. So this has really helped us move together, try to work together, which has been very, very important. Yeah.
Thank you. So Sheila, is there going to be a way for congregations to make that public commitment?
Yes, we'll be asking. What's happening right now in different places is they're what they call kind of listening sessions, because we don't want it to be something coming from the top down. So it's also asking what do you see as your needs and how would you want to have them addressed? So these are really taking place in languages. It's English and some Spanish, some dual languages. GCCM is organizing them, but we're also doing that, you know, in terms of the webinars and our individual contact with others. And we did that, you know, 2 years ago in terms of assessment. So that's what's taking place so that there can be real ownership amongst the congregations because it's something that they want and it's valuable for them to do. Now we have to do it differently because, you know, in some places, like for example, in Africa, we're going to need to get some apps together or some kind of guidance because the internet access is not that strong in many of their places there. So we have to come up with new ways or other ways to involve them in that process. So that's kind of what we're doing. And that when we get more of this organized, you know, it will be clearer. But I'm trying to let you know that we're working on it. We invite you to help us in any way possible, and that we're serious about, and we think we can do this with your help. We can do this with your help.
So Sheila, thank you very much for building this plane even as you're flying it. We appreciate how difficult this is to try to get all the moving parts moving in the same direction. And clearly it's going to be a global effort that has national and subnational parts that are working at it too. And I might just say at this point that the Catholic Climate Covenant is going to be the coordinating body in the United States. So religious congregations will be working with and through Sowing Hope for the Planet and receiving help also from the Catholic Climate Covenant. At the global level, the Global Catholic Climate Movement is helping to provide some of that coordination. So, and there are 7 sectors. I mean, we're just one.
We're one
of 7 sectors that are going to be working at this.
Right. And so, but because we had been working on this and we had been collaborating with Global Catholic Climate Movement when we were just doing Sowing Hope for the Planet, we had no idea at that time where this would lead and what would happen with the experience that, you know, we had been developed. And that's why I wanted to share with you, because that kind of gave you a spirit of how we're trying to work with this. You know, and I think that's important to know. It's about really this new way of working with grassroots, working at the high level, working with the Pope, you know, all of these to try to make a difference. So this is, and it's a wonderful time to be alive, I think.
Absolutely.
What they're being asked to do. Yes.
Absolutely.
So
we've had at least a couple questions about, could you possibly show those dates for the upcoming webinars again?
Yes.
And then of course the question is, how does somebody sign up to attend one of those webinars?
Well, if you are a person that is, you know, in the contact list, then you're going to get a notification of when the webinars are. Those go out automatically, and actually you get them and you can send them out to anybody. Okay,
yeah,
so you can do that. And they are in 4 languages, and they will be from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. So they work on that, but we record them. And the next one is coming up is January 21st. And that's where Father Josh will be able to give you even more insights of where we are with our vision moving forward. And Reba, who's helping coordinate, she's the one coordinating many of this metrics, you know, how we are working together. She will be talking about that. And then we'll have one of the constellations representatives from the Middle East.
It might help at this point to talk about what we should be doing now. One thing I've heard you say is that we should all visit Sowing Hope for the Planet and go to the contact page and sign up to make sure that we're receiving information directly
Yes.
from the campaign, the Sowing Hope for the Planet. What
And
else?
the other thing is I moved you through the page that had all the resources to use them, to use some of those resources, because it gives you a sense of the different spirit of the different congregations. So that's helpful. I mean, I've been through looking at all of them, and it's very interesting. I'm not saying I read everything all the way through carefully, but I found it a beautiful experience of a global Catholic movement of working together in enrichment of our spirituality, because we're really called, you know, and the last document that's came out from the religious dicastery or religious congregational was about the importance of our charisms and our constitutions to help us live our spirituality, actually a life of holiness. And Pope Francis has not mixed words in saying that's what we're called to be, a holy people, and that's why their actions need to be sacred actions. So that, you know, so reading, studying that, really Laudato Si and Fratelli Tutti and Evangelic Gaudium, you're going to reread them again now with a whole different mindset,
And I would think maybe it'd be a good time as we get into the first of the year to have a conversation within your own congregation, leaders, justice promoters, communicators, and talk about how your own congregation has already started this journey. What have you already accomplished? And where are you going next? So beginning to think about planning might be another thing to do between now and May. Sheila, you know, those examples that you gave us of religious congregations that have already gotten fairly far down. Are those examples on the website? Someone wanted to know.
No, you know what? This is part of the information that we're beginning to see. Is this something that we should have a place? You know, because part of the organization is where should we put some of these areas? But this may be what we may want to do is, since we have them, is put them on the website as people that are on the journey, you know, in a serious, systematic way. Because those that we've talked to that for which these are examples, they are eager to share. And each is different, a different format. Each had a different format. So whatever would work for that person is the important thing.
Right.
So I think we're hearing you say that would be good. That would be good to say here. Okay.
So Sheila, do you see any other? I'm sure I've missed some and I apologize for that. But I think we've covered most of the questions. Let me just give everybody a minute. We've got still about 15 minutes left.
Yeah, and I kind of, when I looked at my time and I said, oh, I'm only supposed to speak 45 minutes, I kind of rushed through what someone is asking me to do now is to go back to those examples and say a little bit more about them for the group. So let me just do that and see.
Okay, and while you're doing that, if anybody else has a question that I missed, please feel free to put it back in. And I'll just have to look at the new questions.
Yeah.
Or if you have a question you haven't yet asked, feel free to
yes.
drop.
Okay, here we go, back in here. I mean, this is well, let me say this before we go here. This toolkit, and with his brother Alberto, and his mind in terms of transitioning and putting things together as the seed, judge, and act, assess, discern, and transform, and really finding ways that this is workable and it's exciting. But we have to have the things. We have the overall structure, but it's very flexible, and we need help with it, you know, to really put things forward. So, so the exciting thing, like with the different groups, is the fact that they really are trying to do something together and to find out themselves what's going on in their communities. So when you begin to hear them, their conversations, it's very exciting that that's a part of what they're able to do. And so taking the Laudato Si goals, this is kind of the language that the Claretians are using, and spirituality and education kind of are always folded into whatever they're doing. The data analysis is really interesting in the ministries, that they're going to choose those specific people who are knowledgeable in those areas and would be able to give them the most information. And then maybe they'll have 100 questionnaires, whatever, and then design a plan for that. So that's how that group is going forward. The Holy Cross, again, they've been working since 2009, you know, well, was that about 11 years ago already on these issues. So they're very well advanced in seeing what they're able to do as a congregation and really acknowledge it. They're the brothers and also the fathers, and then, you know, there's the sisters, and there's, I think, there's two different branches of the sisters. So the fact that they're working together is an important thing, and really coming out and saying where they are in terms of interdependence and working together. Their carbon footprint, as I mentioned, and that was the example shown. And because they worked on this, they've been able to fund 37 projects of over $60,000. So that's another way of saying, you know, we're saving this money, where are we putting it? And then the more we know what's happening in the different countries, the more we're able to help. And then this is a commitment very much, and then finding different the webinars on all of the things they're doing. And then using Catholic social teaching and really blending it into everything. And you can see the whole plan really embraces the areas of the strategic, of the Laudato Si plan. And here the Ursulines, really their guidelines, they really developed a book. One of the sister that Mary Angley was on one of the webinars, talked about how this then was being used throughout their congregation on Laudato Si. And then the lady taking and really starting then with the leaders, and then moving forward, relating it to their constitutions. So those are different. When I said that those are different ways of putting this into practice, that's helpful for them. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Couple other quick questions. Be careful what you ask for when you ask for questions. One question was, if a congregation makes a commitment 7 years towards sustainability, is that a commitment to reach sustainability in 7 years, or to try?
No, it's reaching. It's reaching. Mm-hmm.
So it's a serious try.
Oh yes, it's a serious try. Yeah. It's to reach sustainability. Now what we're wanting to look at, you know, what does that, you know, entail? But yes, it's sustainable effort. And you know, I showed you those graphs. We got to get something started. We're going in the wrong direction.
Absolutely.
You have to do something. And then the other piece is to know the significance of this, of what we're doing. That's the other piece.
Good point.
You know, so as we go through this, you know, to be able to really let, you know, through media, however we want to use it, this is the impact that we're making. And we can make this, and we can make this. So this is the teamwork. Yeah.
And then another kind of structural question. Does an entire congregation have to make a commitment, or can individual provinces?
You know, this is a question that we're still not come down on a complete answer. But the challenge is to be integrated. So you can start off, you know, with a particular group, you know, province or whatever that's ready. But then how can we help integrate and to really influence other members of our congregation to move forward together, because this sustainable effort is going to make a difference. So that's important. It's important.
Yeah, and I'm hoping you saw lots of thank yous. One other question.
Yes.
Deals with food systems,
Oh, yeah.
because the ecological crisis is so interconnected with our food systems. Is there any place in here for specific strategies around food and consumption, production?
See, when you look at the different areas, and I just gave you some examples, it says, etc. So if there is something that you want to take as an interest that's involved in care of the earth or care of the poor or whatever, then and then we begin to share that, and you might find someone else that's also interested in that. So that's how we make a difference, and we know that's critical. And it's not just food, it's nutrition, because obesity is a terrible problem. And why are we with that? Is it because what is the reason for this and the type of food that we're eating and the poverty that we have and the kinds of foods that they buy because they can't afford nutritious foods? So these are the conversations that we need to take place in order to find, to make a difference. So, whether we would have roundtables, whatever you want to have to talk about this, because the emphasis here is we're going to make change and we want to make it together. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, really, as you said, we've got to do everything we can possibly do to turn this ship we call Earth around.
Right.
And that is both a huge challenge and an amazing opportunity to be able to be part of that. What a blessing.
Yeah.
What a blessing.
Yeah. It is a blessing. And the questions that people are Carolyn is asking, what is this zero sustainability and how can we do that? And even with plastics and all of that, these are the kinds of questions that are being asked that we're talking about, but haven't been clear about our answers. But at least we know they're the right questions to ask. Okay. So that when I said we are emerging, tomorrow I might be able to say something more. And when you talk to any one of us on this team working together with a new question, what I might say at that moment might be different than someone else would say, but then we come to a wiser place. What I wanted to give you a feel of that we want to work together, the Vatican and whatever. This movement is about inclusivity. It's really about that. And I don't think that you've had that experience of knowing what that is like when it's possible to work together in the way that's collaborative. And the other issue is it's about men and women working together. And we know that we need to be able to have experience talking about what that is like, that we're at the decision-making tables for what needs to be done. And so we need to be showing up when we have opportunities to do that. Just so you know that they're all there talking about this.
Yeah, we are so grateful that you're sitting at that table.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Sheila, there's a question about February 2nd.
Yes, I tried to go to the website for sickle cells, kind of the acronym for it, because I knew that we heard about it, that it's going to be on the environment, but I couldn't find it there. I could only find last year's. So, but I know that this is part of what the dicasteries are working together on this. Pope Francis is clear, you got to work together. And then we, in our commission, we've been asked now to work we have a commission on education, we have interreligious dialogue, we have the Commission of Care, we have something on theology, there's canon law. Our office now has been asked to talk to our commissions for USG and UISG to see what we can learn from one another. So that's it. And and the fact, which I am just so moved, our religious in the United States from our various backgrounds are coming together for this. Potential is there, and it's about hope. It's about creating a new vision because we have it. We have it.
You said it. We are so much more than the sum of our individual parts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's where our potential lies. That's what we need to be if we are going to, in fact, affect systemic change.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. One last suggestion, just so it doesn't get lost. Someone suggested that we might want to consider putting together a webinar that brings together some religious congregations to talk a little bit more about what they've already done.
Oh,
and
yes.
provide
Oh, yes.
examples for others. So some of those congregations that you spoke of this morning, maybe we could gather them on a webinar and just explore what, kind of unpack a little bit more deeply, give a little more time to unpacking what they've done.
Yes.
And there will be lots of examples to all the rest of us.
That'd be great. That'd be so important because that gives you inspiration, and it's manageable. And so I'm grateful that I'm getting these thank yous because I'm trying to think this is my first time to talk to you about an area that's all over, we're going in different places. I hope you have a sense of your importance in this whole effort and that we're still, many things we're still trying to come to an understanding of what we need to do because we need your input. We need your input. We have some structures, so that it's not just out there, but the quality of your sharing is critical to us moving forward. So thank you for that.
So we will stay in communication, and by we, I mean all of us. So we're going to get connected to Sowing Hope for the Planet if we're not already connected. We're going to be there for those webinars. We're going to upload resources that we think will be helpful for all of us to share. That will be our point of contact. And obviously, Sheila, if there's something more specific at the national level that CMSM and LCWR can take leadership on, we will do that as well.
Okay, well, you can count on me.
I know that. I know.
Thank you, Anne, for arranging this and for really allowing enough time and encouraging me to make sure we had enough time for questions because these were as important for you as they were for me. I needed to know where you were coming from and what things matter to you. So that I appreciate the rich sharing that took place and the thoughtfulness out of which we had this conversation. So thank you.
You are most welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thanks to each and every one of you who took time from your very precious schedules to be with us this morning. It's not too soon to get started. Start thinking about how you're going to be able to participate, how you want to participate in this global movement toward sustainability. So thank each and every one of you. Special thanks to Paul, who helped run the back end, and Patricia, who helped run the back end of this thing. Obviously to Sheila for your experience, your expertise, your enthusiasm, your friendship, and for your service to the church. I mean, really, and to the whole Earth community. And as they say, stay tuned for further developments as plans progress and everything becomes a bit clearer. We will definitely be in touch. Thank you all. Have a very blessed Advent, a Merry Christmas, and a much happier and healthier 2021.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne. Thank you very much.
So, well done.